Okay. I'll turn it on. I'll turn it on again. Okay. Okay, go.
Yes. Well, as to the question of innate ideas, let me take up from where I left off. Well, there's a confusion between social and genetic ideas. Like, subgroups of people are taught certain things in their education system. And, Germans, French people, Chinese people, Russians, they're taught certain ideas in their education system. And, it would be a mistake to say that these ideas are part of their genes, because you could take anyone from any genetic group. You could take an American, take them to Russia as a child, bring them up as a Russian, and behold, they're Russian. They have Russian ideas, Russian habits of thought. So, this is why John Locke argued that, that there was no such thing as innate ideas. Now, in the Bible, you see they've got a number of curses, in the Old Testament. You see a series of people who have a curse, some kind of curse laid on them and their descendants. Now, there was the curse, there was the curse of Cain. After Cain slew Abel, God laid a curse on him. And after Noah's flood and Ham's exploits, when Noah was drunk in his tent, it was the curse of Ham. And after there was God's judgment upon Ishmael. There was this Ishmael and Isaac, and God told Abraham to send Ishmael away. Ishmael went away and became a king of a great nation. Great nations, the Arabs. The Arabs count their descendants from Ishmael. And furthermore, there was the famous incident between Jacob and Esau, where Jacob stole Esau's blessing, and so there was the curse of Esau. Now, there are rabbinical writers who try to connect all these things and say that there's some kind of genetic connection between Cain, Ham, Ishmael, and Esau, and Esau's grandson Amalek. And the descendants of the Edomite Amalek, they identify as being the Amalekites of the book of Exodus, which I think is erroneous. But they try to say, because this Amalek, grandson of Esau, is the ancestor of the Amalekites, they suppose, therefore the Amalekites inherit the curse of Ham. Well, from memory, it's been a while, but I think this is counted through the descendants of Esau's wife, who was a Canaanite. And so they have this idea that there's this curse of Cain, this curse of Ham on the Canaanites, which follows through to the Amalekites. But were the Amalekites even Canaanites? You can resort to all kinds of logical, all kind of logical sophistries to try and prove this sort of case. But the whole problem is you've got a theory struggling for evidence, a theory in search of evidence, and and it's not a very nice theory. It's about, I mean, there was a, the Bible, the Bible is this history of, there's this general history of, the faithful remnant. There's the, after the split, after the death of Solomon between Jeroboam and Rehoboam, there was Rehoboam who lived in Judah, king of Judah, and Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was king of the rest. And he was an idolater. And northern Israel was eventually destroyed by the Assyrians. And this was all about, this idolatry was the curse of Jeroboam. And these 10 tribes are often called the lost tribes of Israel. And a lot of, meta-scientific, meta-historical theories, the lost tribe of Israel are counted from these, these Israelite tribes who were deported from Israel by the Assyrians. And some Assyrians actually came back, who actually were settled in Samaria and became the Samaritans. And they actually, Josephus records that a lot of Jews actually, after the exile, went to Samaria and lived in Samaria for political reasons, because they couldn't get on with the people in Judah. But I mean, this whole idea, you see, what I'm saying is these YouTube conspiracy theory videos about reptilians and going back to the Nephilim, I mean, in the recent movie, Noah, starring Russell Crowe, you see, they have the bad guy surviving. The bad guy, what was his name, Tubal-Cain or something, survives and makes his way onto the ark and sits down the bottom of the ark munching on animals, while the beautiful, peaceful vegetarians up top, carry on. But this in the imaginative rewriting of the story of Noah by the scriptwriters in the recent movie. This is the theory of the bad gene, the Nephilim gene, the reptilian Nephilim gene surviving the flood, because it had to somehow. Because if you want to retain the idea of the bad gene going all the way back to the Nephilim, you have to wangle a way for them to have survived the flood. And so there you have it. I mean, this pagan political theory is seen in evidence.